The hum of the terminal at Seattle-Tacoma International was a low, constant vibration that usually set my nerves on edge. But today, I felt a heavy, warm pressure against my left shin. Barnaby, my golden retriever service dog, was leaned against me, his chin resting on my boot. He knew my heart rate was climbing before I did. "I'm okay, buddy," I whispered, reaching down to scratch behind his ears. Barnaby didn't just help with my mobility after the accident, he was my anchor in a world that often felt too loud and too fast. I was headed to my sister's wedding in Boston. It was a long flight and I'd saved up for months to book a bulkhead seat in Economy Plus. I needed the extra legroom, not for my legs, which were still prone to cramping and nerve pain, but for Barnaby. He needed space to lie down comfortably without being stepped on by the beverage cart or passing passengers. As I began the slow process of boarding, I saw a familiar face near the jet bridge. Mark, a guy I'd known since middle school, was standing there in his crisp pilot's uniform, chatting with the gate agent. He looked up, his eyes brightening when he saw me. "Leo, no way," Mark said, stepping forward to give me a careful side hug. "I saw your name on the manifest but didn't want to get my hopes up. I'm your captain today." "Small world, Mark," I laughed. "You're actually flying this bird." "Start to finish, how's the leg and how's the best boy in the world?" Mark knelt down, offering a hand for Barnaby to sniff. Barnaby gave a polite tail wag but stayed in his work mode stance. "We're getting there," I said. "Barnaby is the only reason I'm even attempting a cross-country flight." "Well, you're in good hands. If you need anything, just tell the crew. I'll see you in Boston," Mark said with a wink before heading toward the cockpit. I felt a surge of relief. Having a friend at the controls made the looming 6-hour flight feel a lot less daunting. I made my way to seat 4A. It was perfect, plenty of floor space. I settled in, tucked my bag into the overhead bin, and commanded Barnaby to settle. He curled into a tight, professional ball at my feet, effectively becoming a furry rug. I was just starting to relax when I heard the clicking of high heels and the heavy sigh of someone who wanted the world to know they were inconvenienced. "Excuse me, you're on my seat." I looked up. Standing in the aisle was a woman who looked like she was prepared for a safari in a high-end mall. She wore a beige linen suit, oversized sunglasses perched on her head, and held a designer tote bag like a weapon. "I'm sorry," I said politely, "this is 4A. "Exactly," she snapped, thrusting a boarding pass toward my face. "It said 12C. The gate agent told me the bulkhead seats were for people with priority. I have a very sensitive back and I cannot be cramped for 6 hours. You look young and fit. You can move." I took a deep breath. "Ma'am, I booked this seat specifically because I have a service dog. He needs the floor space to do his job safely. I'm not moving." The woman, whose name I later learned was Mrs. Sterling, though Karen felt more appropriate, narrowed her eyes. She looked down at Barnaby. That is a pet. He can go under a regular seat, or better yet, in the cargo hold where animals belong. I paid a lot of money for this flight and I am not sitting back there near the engines." "He's not a pet," I said, my voice shaking slightly. "He's a medical service animal, and I have a physical disability that makes this specific seat necessary." "You don't look disabled to me," she scoffed, loud enough that the passengers in the first few rows turned to stare. "You're just using that dog as an excuse to get extra legroom. It's disgusting. People like you are the reason travel is so miserable these days." The flight attendant, a calm woman named Sarah, hurried over. "Is there a problem here, ma'am?" "Yes." Karen pointed a manicured finger at me. "This man is refusing to give me my seat. I have a back condition and I demand this spot. Also, I have a severe allergy to dogs. This animal is a safety hazard to my health." I blinked. "An allergy? You just said you wanted the seat because of your back. Now it's an allergy." "It's both," she shrieked. "I want him moved. Move him to the back of the plane, or better yet, get him off. I have rights." Sarah looked at my boarding pass, then at Karen's. "Ma'am, this gentleman is in his assigned seat. He has all the proper documentation for his service animal. You are assigned to row 12. If you have an allergy, we can see if someone near the back is willing to swap, but I cannot force this passenger to move." Karen's face turned a shade of purple I didn't know was humanly possible. "I am a Platinum Elite member. I will have your job. Call the captain. Right now, I want the captain to handle this." Sarah looked weary. "The captain is busy with pre-flight checks, ma'am." I don't care, either he moves or I'm making a formal complaint to the FAA about unsanitary conditions and safety risks regarding this beast. She actually kicked at the air near Barnaby's head. Barnaby didn't flinch, but he let out a low, concerned whine. That was the breaking point. You can yell at me, but don't you dare try to hurt my dog. Don't touch him, I said, my voice dropping to a low, dangerous growl. The commotion had reached the cockpit. The door opened and Mark stepped out. His expression wasn't the friendly one I'd seen 10 minutes ago. He looked every bit the authority figure in charge of a 200-ton aircraft. What seems to be the issue, Sarah? Mark asked. Karen didn't let Sarah speak. She lunged toward Mark. Captain, thank God this person is occupying a priority seat with a filthy animal. I have a medical allergy and a back condition. I've been told I could have this seat and he's being incredibly aggressive. He threatened me. Mark looked at me. I was pale, my hands were shaking, and I was holding Barnaby's harness so tight my knuckles were white. Then Mark looked at the passengers nearby. Is that what happened? Mark asked a man across the aisle. The man shook his head. Not even close, Captain. She's been harassing the guy for 5 minutes. She tried to kick the dog. The kid's been nothing but patient. Mark turned back to Karen. His voice was ice cold. Ma'am, you said you have a severe allergy to dogs. Deathly, she lied, sensing a victory. I could go into shock at any moment just being this close. I see, Mark said. Well, as the captain of this vessel, safety is my primary concern. If your allergy is that severe, I cannot in good conscience allow you to remain on this flight. We are an enclosed tube at 30,000 feet. Even if we moved you to the back, the dander would circulate through the HEPA filters. If you were to have an allergic reaction over the Atlantic, we'd have to divert the plane, costing the airline thousands and endangering your life. Karen's smug smile faltered. Wait, no, I just meant. And Mark continued, stepping closer. I also heard you mention a back condition that makes it impossible for you to sit in a standard seat. Since this flight is full and we cannot accommodate your medical needs in a bulkhead seat, as those are reserved for passengers who have pre-booked them, including those with documented service animals, you are clearly unfit to fly on this specific aircraft. You can't do that, she screamed. I have a wedding to get to. I can, Mark said calmly. Under FAA regulations, the pilot in command has the final authority to deny boarding to any passenger who poses a safety risk to themselves, the crew, or other passengers. Your self-reported severe allergy makes you a medical liability, and your behavior toward a service animal and a fellow passenger constitutes a security disturbance. He looked over her shoulder at the gate agents who were now standing in the doorway. Gentlemen, please escort this passenger back to the terminal. She will need to rebook with a different carrier, one that can perhaps accommodate her complex medical needs, and make sure to note her behavior in the system. The cabin was silent for a heartbeat. Then, as the agents took Karen's arms to her vocal and screeching protest, a smattering of applause broke out from the back of the plane. You can't do this. Do you know who my husband is? Her voice drifted back from the jet bridge until the door finally hissed shut. Mark took a deep breath and adjusted his cap. He walked over to my seat and crouched down. You okay, Leo? Yeah, I breathed, feeling the adrenaline finally start to ebb. I didn't think you'd actually kick her off. I don't tolerate bullies on my flight, Mark said, giving Barnaby a quick, final pat. And besides, she told me she had a life-threatening allergy. I'm just being a responsible captain by making sure she's safe, on the ground, far away from us. He stood up and addressed the cabin. Sorry for the delay, folks. We'll have you in the air in about 10 minutes. Sit back, relax, and enjoy the flight. The rest of the trip was the most peaceful 6 hours of my life. The flight attendants brought me extra snacks, and Sarah even brought Barnaby a small bowl of water and a piece of unseasoned chicken. Barnaby slept through the entire thing, his head resting on my foot, completely unaware that he'd been the center of a mid-boarding drama. When we landed in Boston, I waited for the plane to empty so I wouldn't be in anyone's way. As I reached the exit, Mark was there, leaning against the cockpit door. Have a good wedding, Leo, he said. Thanks, Mark. Truly, I don't know what I would have done if she'd stayed. I probably would have just given up and left. Mark smiled. That's why you have friends in high places, buddy, and tell Barnaby he's the best passenger I've had all month. As I walked through the terminal, Barnaby's tail gave a rhythmic thump-thump against my leg. I realized then that while some people will always see a service dog as an obstacle or a pet, there are others who see them for exactly what they are, a lifeline. Karen demanded my service dog seat, and in the end she got exactly what she deserved, a front row seat to the departure lounge while we took to the skis.